Hello everyone. I'm coming back to you again to share my reflections on how the situation in the Israel-Hamas confrontation is shaping. In this video, I want to reflect my views on the Biden visit to Israel and the consequences thereof. Let me be very blunt and forthright. The Biden visit is a disaster. Of course, he meant well, and on the face of it, it would have seemed that the chief commander of the most powerful army in the world, the Army of the United States of America, the president of the most powerful economy in the world, visiting Israel and standing with the people of Israel in this hour of crisis would have given them a great boost in their morale. It would also have seemed that the might of America identifying itself so unambiguously with the plight of the Jews in this hour of crisis would have a deterring effect on the other players who otherwise would have meddled with this and aggravated the situation. I'm not quite sure if any of these goals has been achieved. Rather, I'm concerned that his visit has unwittingly aggravated the situation. And I'll only talk about two aspects of it. One is that President Joe Biden is a kind of alloy. Alloy is a mixture of two elements. On the one hand, he is the stereotypical avuncular figure, benign, very sentimental, very sympathetic, very compassionate, very Christian, if you like, very Catholic, if you like. On the other hand, he's also a shrewd, calculating politician who does everything with an eye to his own political gain. Sometimes this combination works, but sometimes it doesn't, and unfortunately his visit to Israel is an instance in which, in my opinion, unlike the opinion of many great pundits whom I have heard on various channels, it has not worked. Rather, it has worked ill for Israel, both now and for a long time to come. Let me explain why. Biden sitting with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, for whom I don't have the slightest appreciation, Netanyahu, relapsed into sentimentality and said that Israel should not act in rage. And in order to reinforce his argument, he made some confessions, like a good Catholic in front of a priest. America committed serious mistakes in the wake of the 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers, the consequences thereof, etc. Then a reference, of course, also to the Iraq War. Now, frankly, that's not the occasion for making public confessions. If America has committed mistakes, they are well known to everyone. For the President of America sitting with Netanyahu to say, first of all, to counsel him that Israel should not act in rage, and then to go on to say that America committed serious blunders because it acted in rage, has very serious consequences, and I'm very surprised that Biden could not make out how this would play out in the days to come. And let me give only a few aspects of this. When Biden, sitting in Israel says or advises the Israeli Prime Minister that Israel should not act in rage, what does it mean? First of all, it means that Israel is acting in rage. And what it contemplates to do will amount to acting in rage. And therefore, Biden is very clearly implying that in light of the historical wisdom that he as an American leader has, what Israel has contemplated and what Israel has already announced, I can understand this. If Israel hadn't announced this intention. It is with specific reference to the announced intention of Israel that the President of America says, do not act in rage. What does it mean? It means only one thing, that Israel is acting only in rage. And whatever Israel would do thereafter is also acting in rage. That's all that it matters. That's all that it means. And certainly that's the only meaning his words would convey to people across the globe. The whole world was listening to him, alas. So therefore, without knowing it perhaps, Biden discredited the defense measures. Offense is the best defense, unfortunately. That's the kind of world in which we are living. The defense measures that Israel had so meticulously planned. So this aspersion, this negative image that Biden has so naively cast of the Israeli actions is going to undermine the defensibility and validity of whatever Israel does from that moment onwards. And in fact, the consequences are already there for everyone to see. Now, therefore, the net result of this exercise is that we can see a distinct shift in the sympathy of the rest of the world as far as these two players are concerned, Israel and Hamas. Till Biden's visit, the right-thinking people of the world were sympathetic to the Israeli cause. But after his visit, there's a massive shift in perception, and the sympathy is now shifting clearly to the Palestinians. Whether or not the Palestinians deserve global sympathy or not is not my point. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. That's not my thesis. My point is that Biden's going to Israel at this time and making the seemingly well-meaning, wise, grandfather-like statements in the form of advising the Israelis that they should not act in rage. He has done a serious disservice to the Israeli cause. He has discredited what the Israelis have done and would do from now onwards, particularly given the fact that Israel, as of now, has no option whatsoever but to go into Gaza and to undertake the goals that they have proposed for themselves and announced in such clear details to the rest of the world. So this is the one point. Now, as a consequence thereof, you will find that massive uprisings have gathered momentum since Joe Biden's visit to Israel. The last 24 hours I've been monitoring this. I see a tremendous upsurge, not only in Arab countries, but also in non-Arab countries, in France, in the UK, even in the United States of America. So this would not have gathered such explosive momentum but for Biden's naive mistake. Now let me move on to the second aspect. Biden's visit to this region has clearly delayed the Israeli action. I'm not a military strategist, I have no war experience, but I have read something about war history, war reporting, war strategies. in light of whatever I know, I can tell you that Israel delaying its action, if it intends to go into Gaza at all, is a terrible mistake. I'll be happy if Israel does not want to go in. Without any doubt, I'll be a happy man if Israel does not go in and cause that massive bloodshed. I'll be happy if more lives are not lost. Clearly, that's my point. But if Israel does want to go in, I'm very clear that even 1 hour delayed would cause more bloodshed, more loss of life, more destruction. And that is something that should be so obvious to anyone who has the slightest thinking capacity. And also, as Israel seems to dilly-dally, it fuels, it reinforces the feeling throughout the world that Israel is now unnerved, and therefore increased protests from around the world would intimidate Israel all the more and scare them off their plans. And this, together with Biden's naive statement and the consequences of it, together constitute, unfortunately, a very, very unhelpful combination. Finally, and this is my greatest concern, given how attitude towards Israel is fast shifting from sympathy to hostility, given how the Arab sentiments, and not only the Arab sentiments, the Islamic sentiments throughout the world is hardening towards Israel and becoming extremely hostile. I can actually see that hostility sparkling in the air. I predict today that Israelis throughout the world will have to live in fear of their life for the coming many decades. This would not have been the case if this issue had been wisely and swiftly handled. After all, I have extensive experiences in many of the Arab countries. One thing I know for sure: the Arabs and the Muslims respect power. So even as they identified Israel as their enemy number one, they also had tremendous admiration for Israel, especially after Israel bombed the nuclear facility of Iraq and the amazing way in which it was accomplished. The fear of Israel spread throughout the Arab nations, and that had a deterrence effect. But today that is going to dissipate. It's already dissipated. And what this 7th October attack has done is actually to break the spell of that Israeli magic, which people in this region really feared. I've sensed it, I've felt it, I've seen it. I think that's completely lost. Therefore, this will encourage more and more and more attacks on Israel in the days ahead. If the present situation is not handled effectively and an unequivocal message is not sent to the effect that it is extremely costly to attack Israel, there will be no end of attacks on Israel, because that's how the geography is, that's how the layout of the whole area is. It's not at all difficult to attack Israel. Ensuring the security of Israel, particularly in this age of rockets, missiles, and aerial technology and long-range weapons, it's going to be next to impossible. And history doesn't stand still. Compare the last time the Hamas attacked Israel and the present time, you see a leap in technology. 10 years from now, it will be incredibly more intense, more destructive. So, I can tell you that Israel will be the net loser and a terrible loser in this game It would have made far greater sense for Israel to say, yes, we have been bled, but in the interest of peace, we take it. We appeal to the world community, the global community, including the United Nations, to ensure our security. Israel would have had the sympathy of the world. Massive provisions would have been made, and Israelis around the world would have lived in peace. But that wisdom was not available. And if I had suggested this a week ago, I would have been laughed out of court. I would have been considered a madman. Even now, a good number of people, particularly my fellow Christians, will label me mad. I don't mind it. But I'm truly worried. I'm immensely worried as to what's going to happen to Israelis throughout the world. Israel, the Jews are in diaspora. The total number of Jews in the world, as I said in one of my earlier videos, is 15.2 million people, as per 2021 accounts. Of that, only about 2/3 are living in Israel. The rest are scattered all over the world. Now tell me, which government is going to guarantee their security? It is so very easy to attack Israelis who are private citizens. It is impossible to provide them adequate security. And individual Israelis can't live in bubbles. So either they'll have to migrate to Israel, or they'll have to live in extreme insecurity for the rest of their life. And that's not a happy situation. Insecurity, long term, is hard to cope with. It will destroy you, and I fear for the Jews. Now, the other possibility is this. Israel, true to its word and announced intention, goes into Gaza. A bloody battle ensues, and the battle will be protracted. The goals are not going to be accomplished overnight. It will not be accomplished in 3 months. And each day, anger towards Israel will mount, and gradually, without a doubt, gradually, the various players in this region will be sucked into the maelstrom of the Gaza theater. This confrontation will spread. And I dread to think of what will happen to Israel, surrounded as it is by hostile states, all of which are now armed to the teeth. It's not like what it was in 1967. The prospects are very gloomy. It's very worrisome. The situation has been terribly mishandled. You don't agree with me? Well, watch and see. Thank you.